My name is Yar Anyat. My family and I moved to Edmonton in the early 2000s, coming from Sudan, now South Sudan. Here at the Africa Center, I work as a youth programs coordinator in the Youth Resiliency Building program. YG The Come Up was founded in 2013 by youth here at the Africa Center. There was a need to, address some of the issues that were unique to youth, so they came together and created this collective. Some of the work that has been accomplished through YG The Come Up is we've done a lot, is really what I'm trying to get at. When I joined, prior to being a coordinator and a lead, I was just a general member, and one of the first initiatives that I partook in was the Know Your Name conference. And this was focused really just on empowering youth to know and really value their identity and their culture, as well as really value their history. And so through that conference, there was a multitude of workshops, presenters, panel discussions that focused and narrowed in on that theme. Now this is really just one of many initiatives and projects that the Come Up has been able to achieve. In my time as a participant during the COVID period, I was able to partake and also help organize a substance use seminar. The seminar really focused on having discussions about the topic of substance use, how it affects our community, how it affects young people, and also just how it affects people who are just people in a young person's life who may be dealing with issues of substance use.
I am Liu Makonnen. I am the daughter of Makonnen and Fikata, two hardworking, resilient Ethiopians. I was born and raised in Ethiopia. My background is sociology. I did a lot of work in relation to public health, mostly focusing on behavior change communication around HIV prevention particularly. I have worked with a lot of youth groups, high-risk community members such as commercial sex workers, truck drivers, waitresses, who were highly exposed to HIV. So I did a lot of peer education material development, I did a lot of peer education training, and because we worked a lot with non-for-profit organizations, I also worked on capacity building, mainly empowering them to implement the different programs that we have. After I moved to Canada 10 years ago with my family, my husband and my two boys, I of course had to learn to live in Canada, work different jobs, but mostly focused on respite work for kids in the autism spectrum, because I have a son who's autistic and I learned a lot from his therapy, so I wanted to also give out. I've also worked in Edmonton Public School as an educational assistant, and I also worked as a multicultural animator at Edmonton Catholic Schools.
My name is Salam Sufi. I am 19 years old. I am a computer science student in the University of Alberta, and I am the president of the Meliori Project.
My name is Jibril Abdel. I'm 19 years old. I'm currently a student at the University of Alberta. I'm the vice president of the Meliori Project, and me and Salam have both founded the project.
We started the Meliori Project because when we were finishing high school, we noticed that there was a lack of really good resources for kids going into university and post-secondary. So we decided to band together with a few of our high school classmates. So the Meliori Project focuses on three main things, and the first one is transitioning from high school to post-secondary. Now, when we were in high school, a lot of the times we had advisors or teachers that were there to provide those kind of, next steps into universities, hints, tips and tricks like that, stuff like that. But we never thought it was really, we were never comfortable really going up to them and asking for these advices, and there's all these pamphlets, but it never really fit our style. So we decided one of the things was to make that transition from high school to university easier, was to have our perspective give our perspective to the younger generation, because what we find often is that kids kids are more likely to listen to people that are closer to them in age, as opposed to their 50-year-old teacher. They would probably want to hear something from us, and because we are living in their day and age, they're more likely to respond positively to what we have to say.
In my tenure and in my time as a coordinator, I've been able to lead also initiatives of my own. some of which include Melanin Narratives. This is an annual Black History showcase that really tends to focus on celebrating arts and culture, as well as also leading a career development workshop in which we were able to bring a bunch of professionals from various fields, some traditional, others unconventional, and just have them network and connect with youth about their career journeys, how they were able to get to the place that they were, and really just tackle the issue of representation, allowing young people to see themselves and see people who look like them in places that they aspire to be.
My current position, which is coordinating the PARSI program. PARSI stands for Promoting Alternative Restorative School Support for Youth. And the main reason why PARSI was created was because a lot of young people, particularly immigrant African kids, were being expelled and suspended due to high-risk behaviors. And most of the approach around that was punitive approach, which means like they were always punished for it. Nobody paused and asked what is happening with them, what's going on with them, how can we help them. It was more like they've done this, so they have to be punished. And as a result of that, a lot of kids were losing from their education opportunities. They were not, aiming for higher education because the system was not treating them the way they needed to be treated. So we wanted to do a restorative approach, and so we started working in collaboration with Edmonton Public Schools in 3 high schools. So the main thing that we do is anytime students are involved in high-risk behavior, even before they start involving in high-risk behavior, but they're showing inclination into making not a very good choice, they're referred to us and we engage with them one-on-one, basically supporting them to identify their goals in high school, identify the challenges that they're going through, finding problems together. And the one-on-one support mainly focuses on building, healthier relationships with them, validating the experience that they're going through, and based on that, based on the values that they have, based on the person that they are today, developing realistic goals so that they can start planning towards making better choices, and so that they can have a vision that they can work towards. They face a lot of challenges, so it's more about understanding those challenges and alleviating them, helping them problem solve for themselves. It's not just like you should be doing this, it's more like a collaborative work, a mentorship that we give them. We also focus on building group resilience because it's something that that has helped, because a lot of young people face common challenges, and bringing them together as groups, it could be in Black Students Associations, or one of the successes that we have is the Girls Circle, where we brought girls together and helped them discuss a lot of different issues, and in this way we bring them together and help them understand that they're going through different things and they can support each other in overcoming their challenges. So building group resilience, particularly from prevention point of view. And then, when they're engaged in high-risk behavior, the one-on-one support, the collaborative work that we do with assistant principals, teachers, counselors is something that has worked also, because unless we work as a team, unless we advocate for the youth in these scenarios, it's really hard for them to get just one service from us and move on. They need all that support from everyone in the staff. So we closely work with assistant principals, counselors, teachers. They're the ones who referred them to us, and then we work together to develop a common goal for them and work towards alleviating their challenges. So pretty much that's PARSI.
One of the events that we did hold not that long ago was an event called What We Wish We Knew, and that's one of our biggest events. We held it at Emile Zert, and that event was a bunch of university students would come, and we'd speak about the regrets that we had in high school, in hopes that high schoolers could listen and take their advice. Thankfully, a lot of kids came up to us asking questions regarding like, how did someone get into this program, or how they even study, or how they even manage their time even in high school, which would help them out. And after hearing that, we continued to make many more events and even do it at a bigger scale.
So when Jibril and I and our other group mates started this Meliori project over a year ago, we initially had no funds and we were quite broke actually, but we were really passionate about this idea of bringing real advice and resources to the kids our age or even a little younger. So we started off making events with no money, and of course they were at a smaller scale. So we'd go to high schools by ourselves and we would organize events with what we had, with the resources that we had, all that we could do. But as we started to gradually make pays, and we went from high school to eventually even at the university at the end of the last year, we started to get quite a bit of recognition from the community. So as we started to get bigger and bigger in our scaling and our events included more and more people, we decided to go and apply for funding. And thankfully within this last year, we were able to get funding from a community group called Action for Healthy Communities, or AHC. And they've really helped us in making our events of more quality so that we can bring these kids more better programs.
Another reason why me and Salam started the Mallory Project, when we were both in high school, the vast majority of people after graduation, they did not know what they were going to do. But with me and Sam also having older siblings, they already knew what they were going to do, whether it was grade 12, grade 11. Me and Sam noticed that that was a problem that a lot of people faced, so we decided that when we were making the Mallory Project, it should be tended towards the high school people going back to their transitioning point.
Yeah. Another thing I realized in high school, especially grade 11, 12, as people were starting to plan their futures, is that majority of the kids actually would have no idea what they were going to do. They didn't know if they wanted to continue their full-time job or go to university and start a career. And a lot of times it ended up being that they didn't want to do anything at all. And it seemed like it could have been a lack of passion. It could have been a lack of knowledge as to what are the steps after university.
So as a person who works with youth through my youth program, some of the issues that have come up are, well, there's a range of issues, but common things and common themes that I've heard are issues of burnout, isolation, talks of mental health, academic stress, personal stress, and wanting to understand better ways to cope amidst, I guess, the craziness and sometimes the chaos of life. And then also discussions about identity. Being a youth is like a really defining period for a lot of people. You are carrying values that you've carried your whole life and also redeveloping new ones, and also defining, I guess, meaning for yourself in this life. Really cementing what are your beliefs, what are your core values, what is the future you want to create for yourself, what career do you want, what will your future relationships look like. And with that comes just like, I think, a lot of stress, at times a lot of fear, anxiety, uncertainty. During the COVID period, something that was picked up on through my programming was that a lot of people felt isolated, having to stay at home, not having the, I guess, normal channels of connection, or even just the natural things of going on a walk and seeing a person, or taking a bus ride to campus or school. A lot of that was taken away from people, and a lot of people found there wasn't opportunities to connect as they used to, and there was, I guess, a stronger longing for community. To address this, my program, of course, now had to alter the way that we did historical programming. We shift to an online system, operating using virtual meetings, as well as online communication. To address the issue of isolation, some of the steps that my program took were creating these small moments to just allow people to connect. An example of this was our just weekly, I think bi-weekly study sessions in which youth would come together via a virtual platform. I think at the time it was Zoom, and we would just study. We'd start with a check-in question, really see how everyone was doing, engage in small talk, and then study or do whatever things that we wanted to work we needed to work on. So from our experience, a lot of youth or a lot of participants in our program not only just felt isolated, but also burnt out. There really wasn't any channels for people to, I guess, quote unquote, blow off steam. You were just at home, you'd start your day in your house, and you would end your day in your house, and not having those usual mechanisms of connecting with a friend, going on a walk, or even just regular movement that comes with being outside of your home really impacted people. So that simple initiative low cost, low budget was a way to really mitigate this issue that we saw that was, I guess, growing and of significance for youth in our community.
We observe a lot of behaviors and challenges among the youth, and to name some of them, we observe that a lot of the youth skip classes or come to classes late, and it has to do with a lot of things. Some of them are responsible to take care of their siblings at home. Their parents are probably working, or they're from a single parent family. Also expectations, unrealistic expectations from immigrant families, where they expect their kids to be doctors, engineers, or lawyers. But the kids have different interests, they have different exposures. So they find it really difficult to follow through with their families. They don't know how to negotiate that with their families. They're scared. Because of the trauma, a lot of the families also have difficulty, having a healthier communication with their kids.
Another reason I noticed from the older generation was particularly coming from low-income families, from coming to the country, needing to work a lot of hours, their children would believe that accessing faster cash would be a better solution than spending 4 years in an institute of whether it's university or college. And that is why I believe that some of the older generation focus more on bringing that income to support the immediate family and the younger siblings, rather than focus on spending the 4 years in an educational institute. And because of this is why the Melior Project focuses mainly on high school students and building that connection with them on why education is important.
Growing up, I lived in the south side of Edmonton, and there was not a lot of people in my neighborhood who looked like me. And this was an experience that I dealt with from elementary school to high school. So when I was in my post-secondary age range, or when I was entering post-secondary, I remember that was a feeling that I always longed for, having a sense of community, and then just also being surrounded by people who look like me and could resonate with some of the experiences that I had. Fortunately, I was able to find that through participating in YEG The Come Up. I will say from my own experience as a young person, I saw the value of community within my own ethnocultural community, going to church, going to like family gatherings. I saw how that feeling of connectedness, of having people who you could relate to, share stories with, laugh with, and just be completely understood, the positive impact that had on my elders and the relatives in my life. So that was really something that I wanted to replicate within my own life, finding youth who shared my experiences, who could just really, we can crack jokes about growing up in an African household, or experiencing this, that, or whatever. And it was really something that I wanted, and I was very grateful to have found that in YEG The Come Up. And not only just YEG The Come Up, also through other avenues of volunteerism offered at the Africa Center, and also through just other clubs and services at my university. So I think this really inspired my interest to be in the role that I am in currently, just because I saw the firsthand value of being a young person and getting to experience community and the positives that have come out of it. In many ways, just having a network of people, you can get emotional support, you can also get career support, friendship, companionship. I've benefited from this, and I really wanted to take from what I've gained and give back to other young people.
With the pressure from social media, a lot of the girls are pressurized to look a certain way. So that puts a lot of toll on them, on trying to access different accessories where their parents may not be allowing that. So they go to different routes. We've seen that a lot of girls are pushed into things, and we've observed that some of them are even being trafficked into sex work. With the boys, the gang life is so fantasized, and they feel like that's a good way of coping up with their childhood. challenges for some of the boys, especially who don't have a father figure at home. The gang members are their male figures. So they even say, like, there's a boy who said to me that the gangs are their brothers, saying he never wants to leave them. So we see a lot of the boys being involved, even not, it doesn't necessarily have to be like big gang groups, but just small gang activities. It could be theft, it could be you vandalizing things. So you'd find them being engaged, and that comes from, you know, the lack of support from family, and at the same time the gang life being fantasized. We're witnessing a lot of gun violence among young people, among young immigrant African people. In addition to that, we also see that there is lack of mental health related support. So even the understanding of mental health in our immigrant community is not adequate. So there's a lot of bias against mental health related services. So when kids are, you know, frustrated, they're depressed, they're going through a lot of mental health challenges, they're not able to access those services. Even the services that we have in our community in the public health system is not as appropriate for the young people, because it doesn't take into consideration their cultural background, their cultural experiences. So it's very difficult for a lot of young people to access mental health services. Addiction is also one thing that we have observed among girls and boys who are going through a lot of frustration. And in this day and age where drugs are available everywhere, where kids are targeted to by drug dealers, you know, a lot of young people are getting into addiction, even overdosing. And this is something that a lot of young people have shared with me in our one-on-one discussions. So it's something that that is becoming a big challenge, particularly once they're addicted. You know, addiction also comes from social fantasy, where everybody is doing it, so I'm going to do it anyway. So that's something that I've heard from a lot of young people, where they're vaping. Oh, everybody's vaping, so I'm going to vape. And they start with vaping, and then they move on to the harder drugs. And it's as a result of not understanding where to pause, not having, you know, established boundaries and values. So those are the kind of challenges that we see that are leading to addiction. Racism is also something that a lot of young people from African descent are facing, and it usually starts in elementary and junior high school, where they're called the N-word, where girls are ridiculed for their hair and they feel insecure. And it's interesting how in high school even teachers are showing some microaggression to the comments that they give in classes, to the examples, the kind of approach that they have in connecting with the youth. So it's manifested in different ways, and it's something that they face on a daily basis.
So my advice to people who are in a space to support youth, whether they are parents, caretakers, decision makers, educators, is really the importance of listening to young people and making them feel seen and heard. To be young is such a unique and critical experience, where you're navigating who you are and trying to create a sense of an identity. And a lot of the times, all you really want is to be able to express yourself and not be judged, and just accepted for who you are, and just for the people around you to just embrace you for really all that you are, the good, the bad, and everything in between. The advice that I would give to young people, and this is so cliche to say, but as a person that was young myself and having experienced this as I'm an older youth, as they would say, is really just to be yourself. Embrace who you are in every aspect. Embrace your flaws, embrace your talents. Only you know who you are, and that is honestly such a blessing, that there's only one of you. So just own it, you know, be who you are, claim your space in this world. And I think just through having that, you will find so much power within yourself and be able to really accomplish anything, and to be a beacon of hope for others.
One advice for parents or organizations supporting youth, I believe just be the best support system that the child or the youth may have. Whether it's they're coming home from school and you ask them how their day was, something small like that, knowing that the child has support or has someone to come to, even if he doesn't want to speak to someone, I believe that would be the best for the child, and that was best for me.
One piece of advice that I have for parents or caregivers is that, especially if your child is young, try to pair them up with a mentor. There are a lot of programs in the city that offer this support system, and you are inevitably setting up your child for success, because if they're around a positive role model all the time, especially outside of the house, they're usually going to end up in a better situation later in life. Something that I wish I had growing up was a support group of similar age. So a piece of advice that I have for the youth is to go out there and seek mentors that are close to your age, maybe a few years older and in the career path of your choice, because ultimately what they can do is set you up for success in your career path.
Regardless of all these challenges that youth are facing, there are some strategies that are working in terms of addressing the needs of the youth. The first thing that has worked and the main thing that has worked is building healthy relationship with the youth. This means like taking the time to listen to them, validate them. Meaning, like, even though they're telling us that they're engaged in bad things, they're telling us something that they're doing which we think is not right, validating them and building that trusting relationship is very, very important. And that way we can help them identify the good in them, reminding them that they come first, because majority of the time they're so anxious about being successful, making it into the education system and making their parents proud, but they forget that they come first, their health comes first, they forget that their mental health comes first. So they're so worried about that they forget that, you know, they have to heal first. So we focus on finding a healing process for them, and that has helped a lot with also being able to build a goal for them. When we start focusing on acknowledging them and validating them and you know, reminding them that they come first, they're relieved because they realize, oh yes, it's true, I come first. And then you know, they start listening to themselves. So we work a lot on identifying the beautiful person in them and helping them work from within so that they can be more successful in setting goals and in achieving their goals, in achieving their dreams. So that is a very important thing, and that has helped in a lot in the restorative process, because when we are doing the punitive approach, they're always anxious, then it stops working. You know, for the first time, they would be scared when they're suspended, but when it happens the second time and the third time, they get used to it. And some kids actually want it because they get raised home, they're removed from that, you know, stressful environment, and they're racing home. But when we do it in a restorative way, we're also giving them accountability. We're also giving them opportunity to work on themselves by themselves. So that's a very, very important strategy. The inclusion in the process of decision making, in empowering them to problem solve, that is very important, because when we are just giving them recommendations, then it's going to be our recommendation. But we come together and, you know, come up with the solutions together. That makes it more inclusive. And not only in that, but you know, when we're working especially in groups, helping them in addressing the needs their own way. Like, for example, one of the successes that we've seen with Black Students Associations is them taking ownership in addressing racism, them taking ownership in introducing their cultures to the school environment, addressing some pressing issues that they want to discuss about. So when they're included, when they're given the opportunity to address some of the needs that they have, they can come together as groups and they can learn a lot of leadership, they can learn a lot of problem solving, they can learn a lot about planning. And we've seen a lot of change. And I can give an example where one Black Students Association reached out to an elementary and a junior high school and went into those schools and taught about racism, educated people about African culture. And it was a very good experience, because it was a waking up call for a lot of the especially junior high youth that are involved in being racist against Black kids. So those are things that we've seen when we include them, when we give them the space, they can thrive better. And another example is where we create safe space, they can come together and talk about their challenges and they realize, oh, I'm not alone, you know, and then they come up with solutions together. They learn from each other. One success that we have is the Girls Circle, where we brought in high risk and a group of interested girls together, and we held circles with them for every month, and they've said themselves, like, I'm so happy to be in this circle because I can freely talk without being judged. I understand that I'm not alone. I feel more confident in being myself. I feel more confident in planning for my future. So those are the successes that we've seen in bringing them together. And one thing that we see happening in Edmonton that is working for young people is the accessibility to different programming, different recreation and sports activities. A lot is happening in the city, and the city is facilitating a lot of things. But at the same time, I think we also need to look at approaching this from the young people point of view, more involving them, more giving them the leadership, instead of like us prescribing things and, you know, just giving them, this is a space for you, use it as, but, you know, collaborating with them, involving young people to plan the city, to plan what could happen in the city. They come up with a lot of great ideas. We could use the arts gallery, the museum, the different rec centers, the libraries in so many ways for young people, creating a safe space where they can come and talk to each other, where they're validated. You know, workers in this facilities can also be more accommodating if they include a lot of community organizations such as Africa Center and other organizations to understand more about the young people and their lives and their culture and their perspective. So those are, I would say, good strategies that have worked. As I was mentioning earlier, a lot of parents have difficulty parenting their kids, particularly from an immigrant point of view. So one advice that I have for parents is, please take time to know your kids, know them. It's not like, you know, we were raised in different ways back home, and the systems that work there do not necessarily work here because it's a different environment, it's a different context, and the day and time is very different. So understanding where our kids are coming from, instead of labeling them, instead of being angry at them, please pause and ask. Be with them, talk to them, ask them, and give them a little bit of trust, you know, because it's hard to trust when you are seeing a lot of challenges happening to young people when they're involved in risky behaviors or when they're making bad choices. But unless we trust them a little and guide them, they're not going to be able to make the right decision even in the future. If we keep on making decisions for them, giving them the room to express themselves, that's something that is very, very important, because when they feel heard, then they listen to us. When we hear them, when we validate them, then they listen to us, and they would have a better communication with us. They would be more honest with us. So the key is, please know your kids and pause and ask them. Give them the opportunity to ask questions, to be themselves, and then build that relationship. An advice I have for teachers, healthcare workers, and other leaders is when they're coming into your spaces and when they're not behaving the way you expect them to behave, please pause and ask again. What is happening to them? What happened to them? Where are they coming from? What cultural background do they have? What kind of parents do they have, or family situation do they have? When you understand their situations, you can serve them better. You can collaborate with other community organizations, and that will help you understand the youth better. So please know them and don't judge them. Don't conclude things about them. Don't stereotype them. Always understand that they're coming from different backgrounds. They're coming from different family contexts. So when they're behaving in a way that you don't expect them to behave, please pause and ask, what happened to you? An advice that I have for youth is, you are not alone. I'm sorry. That's okay. I don't know why I'm emotional, but
It's okay. This is
yeah. I didn't expect to be emotional, but oh, okay. Thanks. Thank you so much. It's very okay. Funny. I totally didn't expect this, so I just start remembering the kids and you know what they go through. It's not fair, and they feel alone, you know. So One advice that I have for youth is always remember that you're not alone. There are a lot of young people that are going through very, very similar things as you. And your challenges do not define you. Please do not define yourself with your challenges. Don't ever call yourself, I'm a bad person, I'm a loser. You are not a loser, you're not a bad person. Don't ever use the stereotypical words that are being used against us. You are not your challenge. You are actually the resilient person who has overcome your challenges. So always define yourself with the resilience that you have, and never be afraid of asking for help, because there are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of services that are available. So please go out and ask for help. You don't have to suffer alone. So that's the key advice that I have for you.